What did a kid in your school do to get expelled? Dude smuggled a wine bottle. How the teachers found out? Well, the brass knuckles he was carrying in the backpack broke the bottle and spilled wine in the middle of the classroom. I live in a ruralish Irish town and our school was built next to a massive wheat farm. One day a kid bought in a plastic bottle filled with petrol and matches. He hopped over the fence at lunchtime and set the field on fire. Destroyed the farmer's entire plot. Apparently it was about 500k worth of crops. He also served time. Was pretty wild. One girl I went to HS with stole some school letterhead and proceeded to make her own report cards all year. Super quiet girl. I had her pegged as the honor student type. I don't know if she got expelled, but I never saw her again. Tried to choke someone to death after allegedly being called fat by the kid. He stole an autistic kid's backpack full of books, took a shit in it, zipped it shut, and shook it up. He then bragged about it to one of his friends, so when autistic kid had his freak out it didn't take long for administration to figure out who done it. Yeah, total fucked up thing to do. Kid was an idiot. Constantly getting caught doing stupid shit, multiple BEs, in and out of juvenile detention etc. Shortly after getting expelled he broke into a community building, vandalized the place and stole a bunch of shit. Was already on probation again. Got tried as an adult and ended up doing prison time. Repeatedly put used condoms in a girl's locker to the point where there was a sting operation to catch him. Very weird kid in my year at the time came into school with huge amounts of hairspray in his hair, the amount where your hair eventually sticks like gel but without actually using any. Guy that sat behind him in one of our classes happened to be one of the worst behaved kids in the school and he proceeded to get out his lighter and light his hair on fire. It didn't go up like if it were oil but it definitely stayed alight long enough to see him running out the door with his hair smoking. Both kids were gone after that. Threw a chair at our pregnant teacher in year 5. 9-10-year-old. I also went to his house to play because our moms were friends and he beat me up so badly, kicking my stomach in until I puked in the car ride home and my mom came running in screaming. I'm also a girl. So it's not like we were rowdy boys play fighting. Never seen that kid since. Some kid in my elementary school got expelled for dropping fireworks through mail slot in the school front door, blowing the glass out of it. Elementary school. One of the special ed kids kept escaping the school, allegedly through a bathroom window, would strip down and try to play in traffic in front of the building. Set a girl's hair on fire because he was bored. Pushed a kid into bookcase thus knocking down the whole row of books. All over an airplane engineering book. 2 kids were dealing drugs out of their lockers. One had a locker upstairs and the other's locker was downstairs. Everyone who bought drugs knew the combinations. People were told which locker had their merch and when you had class on that floor you'd get a hall pass and stop by the locker. A teacher got suspicious of seeing multiple kids going to the same locker. I will never forget being in class and getting the lockdown announcement while drug dogs were brought in, and seeing one of the kids flying down the hallway toward his locker. He was a junior? A freshman was giving him a blowjob in the closet during anime club and a teacher walked in on them. This dumbass broke into someone's house, stole their guns, then got busted trying to sell them to an undercover cop. He got expelled and arrested. My brother got expelled for mooning the teacher in the middle of class. I almost did too, for figuring out how to open the console on our lockdown computers and running a command that made "I'm Rick James, bitch" pop up on every screen in the school during standardized tests. One kid came into the school and shot a bunch of students with a BB gun. He was a pretty troubled kid. Later on he ended up going to the same high school as me, did the same kind of stupid shit, dropped out in grade 11, and I didn't know what happened to him for many years. Recently though I found out he's gotten his act together by the sounds of it, owns his own construction company and dropped the drugs, seems to be doing alright. I am from the Midwest, this was the mid-90s. A middle schooler went bird hunting over the weekend. He still had shotgun shells in his coat jacket on Monday, no weapon, just the shells. When he got to school he realized the shells were there and immediately turned them into the principal. He was suspended from classes until the board made their decision and he was eventually expelled. Kid made an honest mistake, did the right thing to correct the mistake, and was punished to the maximum for it. He stole a butcher knife from the cafeteria kitchen and attacked a teacher with it. They tried to subdue him. This is the era before school resource officers, school shootings, and someone pulled the fire alarm. We all evacuated the building. In the ensuing scuffle with the principal, he dropped the butcher knife but grabbed all the plastic knives and forks from the cafeteria. He ran outside to where we were standing and threw them at us. Since they were cheap plastic, nobody got hurt. He was eventually tackled by the gym teacher and principal, then carted away in an ambulance. Kid never came back to school. The school also decided that banning plastic knives and forks would prevent this incident from happening again, so they replaced all plastic silverware with sporks, which is the real tragedy. Kid did get the mental help he needed and has gone on to be a productive member of society, groping everything that moved, including me. After 9/11, my school had a huge memorial and planted a remembrance tree. Some kid pissed on it and ripped it up the next day. He crushed a canister of pepper spray with pliers until it exploded. They evacuated the entire school, and shut down that wing of the school for 3 days until the city school district cleared it safe for use. Kid hospitalized one student for a few days, and earned the guy some juvie time hefty fines. That area of the school smelled like old fish and bleach for weeks afterwards. Released 500 crickets into our school cafeteria, then proceeded to sit back and watch the madness. Resource officer caught as many as he could and ended up putting in the perpetrator's car via open window. He had the last laugh. When I was in middle school around age 13, there was a girl in the class sending threatening emails with rather serious threats to all the popular girls. It ended up escalating to where the FBI was involved, and it turns out one of the popular girls herself who was targeted was the one sending the messages. This was the late 90s, so don't think she even bothered to cover her tracks much and just used her home computer. Her decomposing body was found in the river like 10 years later. Looking back on it all, I'm pretty sure she had undiagnosed mental problems that were starting to surface, and was one of those people who never managed to get them under control. He could fart at will by sucking air into his asshole and then letting it rip. He once tried it under the shower after PE. Well, it turns out that if you suck water with your asshole you end up shooting watery shit bombs. We were laughing our asses off to this shit cannon until one guy went to tell the teacher and he had to go and clean it up. Oof, this is a good one. One of the teachers in my high school was born without his right arm from elbow down. He was the new English teacher, pretty young, good looking and whatnot. We also had another new female teacher come in that year who was quite attractive. If you've ever heard of the movie Teeth, it's about this girl with teeth in her vagina that like eats things or whatever. Anyway, some kid photoshopped both of their faces onto the movie poster and made it say Mr. Didn't always have one arm. The picture got around quite fast, and I went to Catholic school and this was a big no-no. The kid was super smart too. What a shame. Stabbing another kid. Understandably frowned upon. Beat up a girl apparently. That was the last reason why someone got expelled. Before that I've only heard from 2 cases where someone was expelled, a bombing shooting threat and threatening to kill someone and themselves if the other person doesn't want to date them. He targeted Jewish kids in school by removing their yarmulkes and biting their heads. After the 5th victim, the assailant was expelled. I don't know why the first 4 went unnoticed. We were supposed to come up with a creative story for the basic assessment test that we were taking. His story was about killing several teachers. When I was in 3rd grade, some kid got expelled for bringing knives to school for protection. He was a bit of a hothead. He never used them on anyone, but all the kids knew he had one on him at all times. When he got caught a few weeks into it, his parents were called in and apparently they were trying to justify the kid having the knives at school. Most kids never saw the kid after he went to the office that one day. Small private school, kid sprinted and jump kicked another kid into a door, splitting his head open for some reason I can't even remember. He was gone pretty quick after that. 1. Fire extinguisher battle. HS2. Fox urine in the ventilation. HS3. Stood up on desk, playing air guitar with pants and underwear at his ankles. Elementary. He was special needs but got 0 tolerance because he made a series of drawings about taking over the school with fart bombs. He was an all-around bully that nobody liked and was always getting into trouble. Final straw was that he was caught accessing someone else's grades and was making fun of the person for said grades. Hitting a teacher with a bacon baguette. When I was in high school, a kid sprayed pepper spray in the school ventilation system. It was kind of a big deal because the school doesn't have any windows that open. The school had to be evacuated and I think we got to leave a few hours early. I knew the guy, typical trash. He eventually got hooked on drugs, no idea what he's doing anymore. He would call our middle school making bomb threats back to back and we often had to stay on the bus or evacuate to a nearby church until school hours were over. A couple of guys yelled the Germans are coming and went under the table during German class, while the air raid alarm was going off for testing. Added good to know this happened in the Netherlands. My friend left his BB gun and pocket knife in his backpack on accident. The police did a random search of certain classrooms that day and his room was picked. Quite frankly, when I found out, I was not surprised that he was expelled. What I was surprised about was that he didn't get expelled for marijuana possession or setting off fireworks in the middle of the amphitheater. On the latter, I was disappointed. A kid got high on meth and stole a bus. He did a few donuts in the parking lot then drove away, only to get it stuck in a ditch. So he walked back to the school to take a second bus to go pull the first bus out of the ditch. The police were waiting at the first bus when he got there. A kid and his friend egged the school from an airplane. It was crazy. The one guy's dad had a Cessna or something with a private strip in the middle of a field. One night they went to the egg farm next door, Stole a bunch of eggs. Then took off in the airplane in the middle of the night. Apparently they did manage to drop eggs around the school. But early in the morning the fog set in and they couldn't find their way back to the landing strip. They ended up flying very low around town. Which post 9/11 freaked everybody out. One of the hotels was evacuated. Eventually they were arrested and expelled from school for it, but I think it took a while to figure out what happened. Sold a load of drugs. This one kid activated the fire alarm 4 times this one day, and the school had to be evacuated said times. This other kid got access to his class's grade book. He stole the book and lit it on fire I think. He got expelled. Some other guy destroyed every speaker in every classroom. Some other student kicked a ball in a teacher's face and broke her jaw on purpose. My school was fucked. Stole a teacher's wallet. Used her credit card to have pizza delivered to class during finals. She tried to burn the library. Oh this was me. I got expelled from my charter middle school for being a witch. I was really into astrology and some people who didn't like me accused me of having a curse list. It was a list of kids who wanted me to read their palms and do tarot card readings for them. My mom was pissed because she thought it was stupid that I was getting expelled on the word of 3 12-year-olds and on the basis of witchcraft. Bronx Zoo trip. So girl decided that she would not only decide to shoplift $100 worth of merch from the G-Fit shop, but also kidnap a butterfly from the butterfly greenhouse in her backpack. She proceeded to kill the butterfly when she got home. This kid wasn't expelled, but I genuinely do not see why he wasn't. 7th grade in Sweden, casual class for those who need extra time for Swedish English over GRSPAFRA. In the middle of the class he pulls out a revolver replica which looked insanely real and points it up at 5E ceiling. He was sitting further behind than mostly everyone, so the first one to notice it was the teacher. The expression on his face was something along the lines of "what the fuck?" whilst the kid was smirking. That day was the first day I had ever seen the teacher walk that fast over to confiscate it. Nonetheless I was shit scared for a second because that kid wasn't exactly someone you could think good of when you'd see a revolver in his hand, you know. Thankfully he wasn't there to shoot us all up because that had been not so fun. Thanks but not thanks for not killing us. He'd steal stuff and smoke pot in all the businesses around the school. When he got in trouble for it, he called the dean, who's black, the hard RN word twice, covering their body in swastikas and waving pocket knives at teachers and administration. 6th grade. Added for some reason they let him come back for the rest of the year, until they did a drug bust and he was caught smoking weed in the bathrooms. There was some kid who called a bomb threat in my school district a couple years ago, and one kid at my high school said that one day later, the principal went into her class to get him. He hasn't been seen at my school since then. She was pissed that she had to move schools, so she set her new one on fire. Snuck out of the school during lunch with some matches and set one of the trees in the nearby bushland on fire, which spread to the science block and then the English block. Firefighters were called and we evacuated and got sent to the gym. She didn't try to hide it. She bragged about it until one student eventually dobbed her in and then she was gone. Caused a lockdown by chasing people around with knives or something. He called my mom a slut and brought a knife and fireworks to school. I hated that kid. Kid vaped every day. Brought a vape to school, got suspended. Immediately after getting off of suspension, he brought a dab pen to school. Got expelled. Repealed the expulsion, got accepted. Brought another dab pen to school the next day, got expelled again. A friend of mine threw a pack of apple juice through a clock. Kid built a pipe bomb and blew up the press box of our football field. He then bragged about it. The twist? I taught him how to make the pipe bomb using the anarchist's cookbook. Never expected him to do something that stupid. A kid was caught smoking weed on the bus, got suspended for it, and his very first day back he snorted cocaine off a toilet seat. After he got expelled, his student ID number spread throughout the school, so everyone was checking his grades. He had a GPA of 0.082. Started a petition to get a teacher to resign, be fired. Now that I think about it, getting expelled for that absolutely screams some weird school dictatorship. Had an ounce of weed, paper for blunts and an unregistered gun in his car. Lost all of his college acceptances and everything. Has been an absolute nightmare for the women in the school, so I couldn't care less that has gone. Hope he gets what he deserves, but his parents pay for everything anyways. Troubled classmate. Came in fired up and angry one day, swearing very loudly as he walked to his locker. Some teachers came out of their classrooms to talk to him and he gave them a middle finger, told them to F themselves, and pulled a half-empty bottle of whiskey out of his bag on the ground and took a big swig of it. I guess if you are going out, go out big. One guy got suspended for effing one of the goats at the ag barn. Poor girl who owned the goat was devastated after found out, as was the ag teacher and principal when the scene came across the security footage. Second dude was expelled for the rest of the semester for recording the first dude effing the goat. Also almost got charged, or did get charged, with some other offenses for having not only the goat video, but some inappropriate pictures of some girls from our school on his phone. One guy deep-fried a picture of our principal and put the caption "Obey" on it. He printed out thousands of stickers and put them all over the school. The next day the principal had an assembly saying how it hurt his feelings. Then some kids snitched on the guy who did it and he got expelled cause the principal's feelings were hurt. Grew pot in their locker. I have no friggin' clue how he managed it, but he did. Leaving an envelope filled with baby powder in the hallway during the anthrax scare. He brought a BB gun that looked like a pistol to school. Someone told on him thinking it was a real pistol. The cops went to his locker to get the pistol and had a long talk with him as well as school admins. They didn't arrest him, it was middle school. Apparently he told them he was afraid for his life, which is believable because of all the gangs in our area, but if they knew this shitty kid, they'd know he was the real danger. He was a piece of shit. He's currently in prison for selling drugs or something. Thinking back, I never saw him during high school. He might have dropped out. He lived near the high school I went to and our class grade was pretty small. 2 years ago a lesbian couple was nominated for the Homecoming King and Queen Court and they won it. Everyone was really happy for them except a few major assholes. At my high school, it's tradition for seniors to have their own parking space and they get to paint their parking space and make it custom. It's really cool. So right after the homecoming football game the posse went out to their parking spaces and vandalized them and took spray paint and painted swastikas on their parking spaces and wrote ugly dykes on one of them. They were expelled less than a week later. Made a nonsense bucket list, steal a pencil, make a paper airplane, etc. with the final task being kill Sally Johnson. Poor taste in joke. Threw the list in the garbage and someone found it. Police came, Sally was asked if she felt intimidated by the students in question. She says yes, students never seen again. There were 2 kids, best friends. Kid 1. We had this little nature center in my high school and it had a little pond with a bunch of fish. Well, Kid 1 decided it would be super cool to jump in and fish out, no pun intended, as many fish as he could get. Got them. He liked to carry around a pocket knife for safety reasons and throw them at the students and teacher one day. I only know this because one of my friends was there and wanted to put it in the school's newspaper but was denied to do so. Kid 2. DBH, thought it was kind of funny but totally fuckboy material at the same time. Anyways, we had a photography class at school and were only allowed to take the very expensive cameras out of the classroom to take pictures when we had assignments. So, Kid 1 ended up taking said camera home, not sure how, cause our teacher would count every camera before class left for the day, and when he got home, he took a bunch of dick pics with the expensive camera, and when he got to class the next day, thought it would be a good idea to download and print the dick pics on the class computer. Apparently he only wanted to just sneak the pictures into his crush's backpack, but somehow, someway he left the camera drive in the computer and the teacher found his dick pics and not only told the principal but showed her as well. Dude was expelled that very day. Only a week or so after his best friend. Pretty sure his crush didn't receive the dick pics either. Lamau. This kid 18 years of age opened the window, leaned over, pulled a lighter out of his pocket and lit a bird nest that was just sitting there on fire. For no reason, apparently. Smoke started getting into the building, everybody panicked because the janitors just kept saying there was a fire in a classroom and we rushed outside. It turned out to be nothing serious, but that wasn't the wisest decision. Called in a bomb threat because we had to attend school during a massive snow day. A boy in my GCSE science class took off his trousers mid-lesson, threw his boxers at the teacher and just stood there with his cock out. Only guy that got expelled the year I finished high school sucker punched a dude with a combination lock in his hand. Knocked out 2 teeth. His name was Dr. I forget his last name. I had 11th grade French class with him. The kid was not right in the brain. The teacher had to keep moving his seat because every girl he'd sit next to he would hit on relentlessly, gross stuff. Writing creepy explicit notes, passing them to you, and then watching while you read them. If you ignored him he got frightening, angry and irrational. He had to be removed from the class multiple times. I can only imagine he was acting this way in all his classes. One day the whole school was electric with the news Dr. had brought a gun to school and a kill list. A teacher caught him screwing around with the gun in the bathroom. The list has maybe 30 names on it, including mine. He was expelled. I'm not sure if he went to jail or something as well, but none of us ever saw him again. It's been almost 20 years since then and I still think about Dr. from time to time. I so hope he got the psychiatric help he dearly needed. Had a kid break in and trash some vending machines. He covered his face for the cameras, but after some expert detective work the police were able to identify him by the last name on his Letterman jacket. Nothing. No, I'm not kidding. This kid did nothing. Never turned in work. Never participated in class. He played on his phone. Watched Netflix in class. Slept in class. He did nothing. He was expelled a month before graduating his senior year. I went to a Catholic school and a 7th grader brought and did all kinds of drugs including the typical weed, alcohol, tobacco and other more nasty stuff. He was expelled and had to go to a school in another county which is a really bad school. I was dating a girl who lived next to him and he and I became very good friends. I'm a bit older than him but he's a mature kid. He's like the little brother I never had. He does a lot of stuff that pisses me off but I keep him out of trouble for the most part. Not everyone who gets expelled are bad people. They're often misunderstood and that leads them to make bad decisions. Punch the PE teacher. A guy in school knocked over a vending machine. Free candy for all of us, but he got expelled for a week. He was our hero. Teacher overheard a few kids having a hypothetical talk about school shootings. It was right after Columbine and the teacher freaked out. Thought the oldest one was actually planning on shooting up the school and got him expelled. They were talking about Columbine, not how to shoot up our school. Back in 6th grade there was a kid who I will call John. Now John I think had some undiagnosed psychiatric issues that would cause him to just explode in frustration, but he was otherwise a nice kid. We both had a science teacher who was just an insufferable asshole. He would make it a habit to antagonize and mock kids who he didn't like. Well, one day during some downtime John was asking the teacher for help with something. The teacher said something rude like there isn't enough time in this life to help you. John obviously freaks out. Yanks the asshole teacher personal iMac G3. It was blew off the desk and threw it out of the 3rd-story window to crash against the pavement. Fucking karma, man. In 2nd grade I was line leader and that morning the school was having electrical issues with the lighting. When we got to the end of the hallway I stopped but people kept going and I was pushed into the fire alarm. Apparently you can push or pull and I went shoulder first into the alarm. Basically the school was evacuated and fire department showed up. I thought I was safe when a teacher said there was scheduled evacuation that day, but after the fire department showed up my 1st grade teacher said that I did it. There's no way she could have known or seen from her room. Long story short, I got in school suspension before they decided to 86 me. Put Lex in teacher's coffee. In middle school this kid cut some kid's ear off with a scissors during lunch. Refused to apologize for selling drugs. Not for selling the drugs though, as a bunch of other kids said they were sorry and received no punishment. One set the upstairs boys' washroom on fire by putting paper towel in the hand dryer. X200B1 ran down the hall, pouring gasoline, planning to burn it down. X200B1 wasn't from my school, but was in a school in the same district. They tweeted a bomb threat to the district heads, and got every school in the district on lockdown, and no one was allowed to leave class, until the person tweeted again that they weren't serious. And by the time this happened the day was already done. Some kid asked to go to the bathroom. Little did the teacher know he would hop up on the toilet, remove the ceiling tile and climb up in there. He crawled his way through until he reached another bathroom. No idea how he was caught, but his explanation as to why he did it was because the soap dispenser was empty. Semi-castrated the principal with his boot. At least that was the rumor. Kid was BFFs with my brother and he confirms the story. Kid had a bit of an aggression issue and what we today would recognize as some sort ADHD type of disorder. But this was in the late 80s, so nobody had thought that it might be a disorder and not just a lack of a good beating. Kid rode his bike in the hallways in grade 8 or 9. The principal saw this and kindly asked the kid if he would be so kind as to not do that by yanking the kid off of the bike. Kid responded by applying his right boot to the principal's gonads, bearing one testicle to the point where it had to be amputated. When I went to the same school a couple of years later the principal was still there, but he was quite docile. I put fire on a classmate's hair. He drove one of those cartoonishly large pencils through his bully's thigh after sharpening it with a pocket knife the day prior. For a senior prank, a kid discreetly covered the floor in what I think was olive oil. Literally everywhere you walked was an actual tripping hazard. Teachers were falling all over the place trying to clean it up. We sat in first block for 4 hours as it all got cleaned. Kid was a legend. Got caught with a bag of weed at school. That kid was me. A couple juniors were playing with some marking flags during their environmental class. One of them threw the flag at his friend and he ended up stabbing him in the eye. The one that threw the flag got expelled while the other one got sent to the nurse and then to the hospital. Backstory. We were stationed in Europe. They were open about sex and nudity. Just no big deal. We moved to rural US. Son's school was considered a country school. Then the school districts change and he's going to the town school. Got the call they expelled him for describing chicken sex in detail using proper nouns and verbs. I was actually impressed the administration was not. It took everything not to burst out laughing at them sending him home for 3 days. What kid didn't want 3 days off? We had a kid get so mad at a girl for rejecting him over prom that he killed her cat, chopped its head off, and left the head in her locker. Created a video game, or as he called it, a graphic novel that had branching paths that would reveal secrets, but either the principal, The dean, or the most popular kid. We are not allowed to speak about him or we get in trouble. This happened about a year ago. One of the older students was hiding weed in the ceiling in the school toilets. In the end, someone heard it from someone and ended up telling one of the teachers about it, so he was expelled. This happened in the UK if anyone is curious. Kids in my school hardly ever got expelled, mainly BC. My school was kinda the last on the list so to speak, so most of them had already been expelled from everywhere else and there was nowhere left for them to go. There were still suspensions though, some of the highlights bringing vodka and wine into morning classes and giving it to kids, telling them it was Vimto, mixing Viagra into blue raspberry flavored ice cream and feeding it to Y7S 11-12-year-olds. Not the same culprit as the first one. Mind you, having sex in the science social area which had booths so you couldn't see who was in them. They got rid of the booths pretty quickly after that. The two kids in question were 13, breaking a kid's neck. My cousin's, in fact, he was standing on a table to help put up a poster and they yanked the table out from under him and he landed weirdly and broke his neck. Our football field in high school had a big sign behind the home bleachers that said "Go Tigers beat the insert opposing team," and before homecoming I switched it to "Go Tigers beat the meat." It got pulled down before the game and homecoming court was announced and all that. And there were only maybe several hundred people that saw it, so it wasn't hugely successful, but 30 years later people are still talking about it. Only suspended 3 days, and like 1 month of cafeteria duty wiping down tables and stuff, but I only did like 3 days of that, so the juice was totally worth a squeeze. He threw a chair at a teacher and punched a disabled kid. He was a drug dealer and one of his underlings stole some money from him. He went to the guy's house before school and beat the crap out of him with a flashlight. The police came to arrest him during government class and I was the only one to find it ironic. This small idiot who couldn't even throw hands with the nerds in the weed group picked a fight with my friend, someone who grew up in the hood and got in fights with people regularly. Kept calling his mom slut and saying that him and his family as well as I target by accusation were back ally sluts. Well, one day he was trying to poke fun at the fact that I didn't have a mom, ran away when I was little, which I didn't care about. But he messed up when he called my friend's mom a cripple bitch. She recently injured her leg I guess, and my friend went off and pretty much beat him within an inch of his life. Friend got expelled. Long story short, this kid was being an asshole to me and my friend, so my friend beat him to hell and got expelled. Not expelled, but I did get suspended for calling a teacher a half a meatball. Can't remember where I got it from. Jacked off in class multiple times and threatened to shoot up the school. Oh wait, he didn't get expelled or suspended, my bad. Punched the gay kid after the gay kid ratted him out for stealing from the donation jar. Draw a horse F-king another horse on his desk. Threatened a girl with a pair of scissors. Didn't see the incident so no idea how serious it was, but it apparently merited expulsion. I feel like getting expelled is the kid version of Year 530. Duh. Bring a BB gun, forcing our school to go into lockdown while the police came to search for it. They never found it, but he was still expelled. Pre-explanation: all the teachers in my middle school got a Bluetooth speaker of their choice provided by the school so they could play work music. So one kid in my class, let's call him Joe, connected his phone to all the teachers' speaker in every class and played a porn video on it at full volume, and in the last period of the day the teacher, he had got one that said what just connected to the speaker, so before the video started playing the speaker said, "Joe's phone has connected." This happened my freshman year, so 1986. A senior showed up on the senior's last day of school drunk. When confronted about it, why the female assistant principal, he dropped his pants in the middle of the busiest part of the school and told her to suck it and was promptly expelled on his last day of high school. I posted this before. The motherfucker stole my white PSP and lied about it. This was in 2005, 2006. The only way you had a white PSP is if you got in Hong Kong or somewhere in East Asia. These guys made up a bunch of shit, saying the profile name is their name, not mine, you can change it, lol, calling me a liar, even getting their dipshit parents that backed their side. Well, guess what? They were real fucking quiet when I brought the fucking box with the serial number that matched the PSP. Their parents were real fucking quiet when my mom showed up with the fucking bank statement proving she brought the PSP for me. They got expelled on the spot. Their parents were fucking grilled by my mom and then by the principal. They begged us not to make a police report. Fuck you, Gabriel, you little shit stain. Fuck you and your parents. Hacking the Wi-Fi on finals day. The kid also would text kids' parents acting like students, and he would ask the parents if they wanted to have sex. His last name was Rossi, so I named him Ross Basti Doss. When I was in 8th grade, someone at the high school wrapped a milk carton in tinfoil and wrote "bomb" on it in black Sharpie. Once word got around and confusion settled in, the school was evacuated and bomb squads as well as police and firemen had to be called in. I heard on the local radio a week later that a 17-year-old male at my high school has been charged with I can't remember and suspended and taken into custody. Something along those lines. But yeah, it was pretty funny. Threatened me and saying he will stab me after school. I bursted out in tears in class and my teacher took me to the principal who took this very serious. You wanna know why? We were in the same volleyball team and when I was learning to play we sometimes lost a set because of me. I ended up being the best attacker in the team years after. He ended up working at McDonald's and at the time was also dealing drugs. He bumped into a girl in a mosh pit at homecoming. She claimed he raped her and even though he took lie detector tests and had multiple witnesses, he got expelled and now he's registered as a sex offender. He tried to bash in his bully's brain with a crowbar but couldn't think of a better time to do it other than gym class, so everybody saw him and stopped him. He was an honors student so kind of a shame too. When I was in grade 7 a girl in grade 9 stole a yellow school bus. Took it for a joyride and crashed into the side of the school not too long afterwards. Never saw her again. Last I heard several years later now she's in jail. Shocker. A kid brought a gun to my school. We had to lock down for over an hour, and he got arrested and expelled. Turned out the gun was an airsoft gun, but schools have zero tolerance for that shit, with good reason. So this girl I grew up with was a straight hood rat cola type. And I don't mean this as the sense that she dressed it only for appearance, nope, she was known for beating up kids. Anyway, in middle school you could tell not to mess with her. But she became a young woman, like, damn. And she stopped wearing the heavy makeup and dressed more girly is what I would call it, no longer tomboyish. Anywho, new kid from different school who didn't know her and her past from middle school, liked her, decided he was gonna go ahead and grab this girl's ass. Runs up behind her, gets a handful and says something that we couldn't hear but from what we could tell was probably a shitty pickup line. She reacts to what is happening by grabbing a good old 2 Scantron testing weak and bam stabbed him in the side of head with it. Dude fell to the ground and panic all around. She got suspension but he got kicked out for sexual harassment. Apparently it wasn't his first offense on school grounds. Yup. Respect women folks. Blew up a toilet. Got ISO and walked out of school, walked back in and threw a chair at a teacher then walked out again. Permanent expulsion. Edit. He now skives off at his new school. Gave opioids to another kid in the last month of school. He was smoking weed with friends in the school. A young man came to them and told them give me that. My friend thought he was another student, so he gave him the joint and said enjoy, bro. Guess what? The man was a teacher. He headbutted another kid to the floor and beat him about the genitals with a metal chair until one of the kid's testicles ruptured. He changed the school's Wikipedia page to imply it was a shithole run by morons. Once the other kids caught on, the administration had to get the wiki page locked. He would have gotten away with it had he not used the school computer to edit it. Threatened to shoot up her high school, on the 1-month anniversary of Columbine. Yes, kids have read it, I'm an old. There was a kid arrested for doing finger guns.